Hey guys, I'm Sarah, a user experience designer and entrepreneur. These episodes are filled with answers and insights to your questions about business, technology, and design. I'm going to be taking questions from people just like you and try and help you learn about design because the education of a designer is never really over. You can also learn more about user experience in my weekly user experience newsletter, theuxnotebook.com. But in the meantime, here is the first question that I have from a reader. So Umesh in India has asked, how do I make a UX portfolio if I don't have very much experience? And surprisingly or not, I get asked this question probably at least once a week. People say, people won't hire me because I don't have any real world experience. So how can I make a portfolio? And my gut reaction to this is that if you can't figure this out, you probably need to rethink your career and user experience. And I don't say that to be mean. I say that because this is a UX problem that you can solve pretty easily. So let me explain. But first of all, I want to back up a little bit and tell you my perspective as someone that's hired UX people before. So a couple of months ago, I wrote a pretty popular article that talked about why the UX of learning UX is broken. And we talked in depth about these programs that are 1 week, a couple of weeks, months, that tell you you're going to learn about UX, which is great. But the problem is that when you come out of a program like that, you don't have lots of real world experience. What you have is a portfolio of items that are somewhat probably group projects and some things maybe you did on the own. But the real problem here is that hiring managers say they can spot these portfolios from a mile away. And the reason that they can spot them is because they're all very similarly themed group projects. And then the big red flag is that if you know it's a group project, how do you know what the candidate actually did? What is their specific skill set? So back to the problem of how do you do a UX portfolio if you don't have much experience? My advice for you would be to step back, because the truth is there's a ton of problems around us every day that we could be solving. What I like to do is have a little notebook, and I'm constantly taking down problems that I encounter in my everyday. Buying a Metro card for the subway, trying to do some online banking on a bank app, using a website to book a hotel and something goes wrong, trying to renew my license or go through security at the airport. These are all questions and activities that you could use as example projects for a UX portfolio. So what do I mean by that? Depending on what type of UX job you want, I would look at one of these problems and say, if my role were a user experience designer, a user experience researcher, a product manager, whatever your kind of ideal role is, think about how that person in that role would solve that UX problem or go about solving that UX problem. So if I were going to do the UX of going through security at the airport, which I hate, I would start out and think to myself, okay, this is the problem I'm seeing. And then how would I go about solving it? Well, for me, that'll probably involve some research. I'd probably want to talk to passengers. I'd want to talk to TSA agents. I'd want to talk to the people that run the airport, because the airport somehow has to make money. I'd also want to talk to people who have designed similar flows. So maybe, is there a company that, or a design firm that I could talk to who's experienced in doing, I don't know, designing the ER or designing how people move through a store or something like that. But the point is, I'm not just sitting down with a piece of paper or a wireframing program or something and designing out what the ideal user flow is through the security line. I'm not focusing on the end deliverable is what I'm trying to say. I'm focusing on the process I would take to begin solving that problem. So for your UX portfolio, my best advice is to, number one, don't focus on the end outcome. Don't focus on the end deliverable, because that doesn't show me how you think. And as a hiring manager, I want to know how you think. Advice number two is to tell me the story of how you'd go about solving that problem. So of course, if you can, show me what maybe a solution is, but I want to see everything else that happened to get you to that solution, or that you would do to arrive at that solution. So if you don't have much experience, figure out what these problems are that you encounter every day, write them down in a little notebook, and then once a week or so, open up your notebook and see which problems kind of are interesting and exciting to you. And then dedicate a few hours on an evening or a weekend to sitting down and identifying how you would go about solving that problem, how you would apply UX thinking and design thinking to that particular problem. Then you can have this great collection of stories and case studies of problems that you have identified yourself and that were not part of a group project. And that's really going to stand out, because you're not just going to have the project that comes across recruiters' desks over and over that they say they can spot a mile away. You're going to have these unique, thoughtful situations and problems that you've identified. Because, and I'll leave you with this, UX is not just about solving problems. UX is about spotting problems. So if you can become an expert problem spotter, then you're going to do great. You're going to be able to develop your portfolio, but also once you're hired, people are really going to like you, because you're going to be constantly seeing little areas for improvement by having this ability to quickly spot problems. So that's it for today. I hope that that answers your question and that you can start developing your UX portfolio more. Now, if you're listening and you have a question, the easiest way to ask me is to head on over to Twitter and ask me right there. My Twitter name is Sarah Doody, Doody. And just tweet me your question and maybe use the hashtag #AskSarah, and then I might answer it on an upcoming episode. So UX tip of the day here: don't just be a problem solver, be a problem spotter. Thank you, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.